Even though I daily drive macOS, I still like to keep a Windows laptop around for all my Windows needs. I always like that laptop to be a gaming laptop, and I recently replaced the one that I already had. The old one that I'm replacing is going to be an HP Victus. I don't remember what the model number is or anything like that, but the new one that I'm replacing it with is the Asus ROG G14 laptop, which is a 14-inch gaming laptop. Now, with buying a new laptop, that brings up the question, what am I going to do with the old one? Put Linux on it, of course. This is B from Tay Talk Tech, and today I'm going to be showing you how to turn a gaming laptop into a Linux gaming laptop, so stick around. I have a favor to ask. If you like this type of video and want to see more content like it, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications. Also, don't forget to give this video a like if you like it. Let me know what you liked, didn't like, or if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or emotional outbursts down in the comments below. And lastly, stick around all the way to the end to get the most out of this video. Let's do this thing. Alrighty then. So this right here is actually going to be the laptop that I'm going to be using, which is this one right here. Sorry about that sound. That was just the cable, the HDMI cable that I'm going to be using to capture from this laptop here in a few minutes. All right. It is a 15.6-inch laptop. It has an Intel i5-12450H, which includes 8 cores total, 4 P cores, 4 E cores with 12 threads. It has an RTX 3050, 4 gigabytes of GDDR6. It has 16 gigabytes of DDR4, 3200 megahertz RAM. Now, the distribution that we're going to be using for this today is going to be Linux Mint. All right, let me go ahead and pull this down so I can do all this stuff here. All right, so yeah, we're going to be using Linux Mint 22.1. I know that it doesn't have Wayland support, but this is one of the easier distros if you're coming from Windows, and honestly, it's one that I really, really like. You can use any distro, though, that you want. Linux Mint is going to be based on the most long-term service version of Ubuntu, which is going to be 24.04. So if your hardware is after that date of April of 2024, just keep in mind that you may want to use a more recent version of Ubuntu, or just make sure your kernel is up to date so it's including all the hardware in that laptop, because that'll make your life a whole heck of a lot easier. Now, the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go ahead and download Linux Mint, which is going to be all we do is just go here to download here on the Linux Mint website. And then we want to pick the Cinnamon edition, be this one right here, and then pick your mirror. I usually use the one from James Madison University because this one's pretty fast. But yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to pick up. Now, not only are you going to need to download Linux Mint, and to download it, all you have to do is just click this. I'm going to stop that though because I've already got it downloaded, which you can actually see right here. And then the next thing that you're going to need is Balena Etcher. Now, Balena Etcher is going to be what we're going to be using to take that ISO drive and turn it into a bootable media. And you're going to be doing that using a USB drive. And that's going to be anything that looks, sort of like this. Sometimes they are also Type-C, so just get whatever one's going to work for your particular purposes. You're going to want at least like a 4 to 8 gigabyte one minimum. And then Etcher is available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So you can use it on any of those platforms. And if you're on Windows, you can also use Rufus, but I'm not going to be showing that to you because I am on a Mac. Now, the next thing that we're going to need to do here is we're going to need to go ahead and create the install media. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to Balena Etcher, and I just got to plug in this USB drive. This one actually already has Linux Mint on it. All right, and then what we're going to do here is, since we actually downloaded it, what we're going to do is we're going to flash it from file. And then we're going to come here to this one right here. We're just going to hit open, and then we're going to select the target. And it's got two options here. So in this particular case, we're going to do this one right here. And then we're going to go ahead and hit select. And then you're just going to go ahead and flash it. Now, I'm not going to actually flash it because I've already got it on there, and I don't see the point of wiping that out if I've already got it on there. So just go ahead and hit flash, and then it'll do its thing. It may take a few minutes. It's all going to depend on the speed of the USB interface that you're working with on your computer. So, and also the USB drive. So if you're using like an older USB 2.0, it's going to be a lot slower than if you're using a USB 3, which is what this one is. So, all right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and the next thing that we're going to be going ahead and doing is we're going to be talking about actually getting the USB drive booted up into the BIOS on the computer, and I'll be actually doing that from my iPhone, so I will be right back. All right, and we are back here with the actual laptop itself set up. All right, so the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is grab our USB drive right here. See it here in the camera. All right, we're going to take that and we're going to put it in one of the USB ports on the laptop. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the right-hand side. All right, so the next thing that we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and power on the laptop, and then for this particular laptop, I'm going to hit escape repeatedly once I start, sorry about that, I thought I wasn't recording, but I am recording, so I just couldn't see it. I'm going to spam the escape key. Now, every laptop manufacturer does their BIOS key slightly differently. I can hit escape, and I believe I might even be able to hit F10 while it's in the process of booting to access the BIOS. But if you're not sure about how to do that, go ahead and just Google manufacturer and then BIOS key, and it should tell you what the BIOS key is. I'm going to go ahead and from here hit F10 to enter the BIOS. And this is the BIOS that we're working with on the HP Victus. All right, and what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and, on this particular laptop, we're going to go over to boot options. So we want to make sure that the secure boot is disabled. If you have a option for fast boot, you're going to want to disable that option as well, because that can throw off Linux. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that in the boot order, and this could be a separate tab on your particular system, that this one right here, boot order, is going to be the USB flash drive as number one over any other device that would be connected. Now, keep in mind, these are going to be the options that I have to change for this particular laptop, and this varies by manufacturer. So don't think that this may be only limited to these things that need to be updated. There are additional configurations depending on the system, and it also depends on how old the system is too. Some older systems have some other things that need to be changed in order to be able to boot properly. So just if you're curious about additional steps or it's not working, go ahead and Google manufacturer, install Linux. You could also just do install Ubuntu, because they'll give you the steps, and then you may want to just add in BIOS on there into that query to make sure that it actually ends up going through. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is we're now going to go ahead and over to exit. We're going to hit save changes and exit. And we're going to confirm that. We're going to say yes, and it's going to go ahead and boot into the USB media. All right, so we're going to want to give this just a minute here. Now, just remember that it can take some time for this to boot for that first time into the actual USB media. The first thing it's going to do when it starts booting is it's going to go here into the grub menu. There's two things here that are important: the Start Linux Mint 22.1 and UEFI firmware settings. If for any reason, like maybe you get past, you couldn't figure out the BIOS key and you get to this part, go ahead and go to UEFI firmware settings, and that will take you into the BIOS. If not, then go ahead and you're ready to install, go ahead and hit enter on that one. And then it'll take a moment here to come up. Perfect, it's coming up. Awesome. There we go. We've got the Linux Mint logo. This is like the 10th time I've filmed this sequence. I was trying it with a webcam, and the webcam was just old and terrible. It's about a 10-year-old webcam, so I'm not shocked. So right now I'm using an iPhone to let it do its thing. All right, and it should be loading here any second. The first thing that we're going to see is we're going to see the pointer for the mouse. There we go, and then we should get the desktop here in just a sec. And this will boot faster once we actually get Linux Mint installed. So I'm going to do a couple things here just for quality of life. The first thing I'm going to do is turn this freaking screen brightness up because it is really low. There we go. Make it a bit easier to see. And I'm going to go ahead and right click. And I'm going to come down here to display settings. Oops. Oh, there we go. Yep, it did go in. I'm going to change the resolution on this thing because we do want to go ahead. Why is this thing spazzing out? There it goes. Don't need it that small. Here we go. We'll go down to 1440 by 810. We're going to hit apply, and it's going to ask us if we want to keep it. We're going to say yes, we do. We're going to come up here. Well, I think my trackpad got stuck. Yeah, this thing is a cheap laptop. I would only buy an HP Victus again if I were desperate. There was no other option available. I've not been a big fan of this laptop. It just has all sorts of quirks and problems. The reason that I ended up decommissioning this as my Windows laptop was because of the USB-C port. It wasn't work. It was having a real hard time. Just anytime that I plugged something into it, it would just connect, unconnect. And when I have Linux on it, it doesn't have any issues. So I'm actually thinking it's a Windows problem because the laptop I replaced it with is also having that exact same issue. So I'm just like, yeah, there's something going on here, and I don't like it. So, all right, so we got that blown up. I changed the theme to dark theme because I don't want the brightness of some of these screens, and it also just kind of cooperates a little bit better when I do it that way. And in the future, I might do additional videos like this. I'm kind of liking this film in this way. I have an external capture device, but it has a hard time with laptops because of their BIOSes. A lot of times it doesn't have a way it can't, like at boot, without an operating system, it can't access the HDMI port, so it's basically useless. And that's not going to be the case in every laptop. It just depends on the laptop. So let's put in my password for my... Hopefully I get it right the first time. I have been known to put this in incorrectly. I think I do because I can see it sitting there saying, oh, nope, I typed it in wrong. Hold on, let's try this again. It's a bit of a pain to have to type around this camera. Let me see if I got it. Come on, take it. Damn it. What is going on here? And sometimes it won't take it. I've actually looked at the password, and it's like, oh yeah, it's all correct, and it's just like, no, we're not taking it. I'm just like, why not? There it goes. All right, cool. That was probably just user error. All right, there we go. It's added my printer, which is great. All right, so on the next screen, it's going to ask us if we want to install media codexes. We're going to go ahead and say install. We're going to say continue. And the multimedia codexes are going to be the codexes that are going to be used for video playback, both in different applications on the system as well as in the browser. So you'll want to make sure to install that. Keep in mind there is going to be proprietary ones in there included. So if you're a person who likes to use only open source software, just be mindful of that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and select this right here, erase disk and install Linux Mint. Now, say if you did want to like just add this to like Windows laptop or something like that, I don't recommend dual booting Linux and Windows on the same disk, just because Windows has this nasty habit of like, it's like, oh hey, grab bootloader, now you don't belong here, and it kills it. And then it's like next time you can't boot it, only boot into Windows. Which you can configure Linux to use the Windows boot manager as your boot manager, but that takes just additional configuration. So maybe that's something I'll do in a video in the future. But yeah, you can choose to install it alongside another OS if you have one. So we're going to come down here. We're just going to erase and install. And if you want to go ahead and partition yourself, check something else. You also have the option of using LVM. So, all right, it's going to go ahead and install. It's going to have us input, just confirm everything. We're going to be like, yep, go ahead and torch all that stuff. All right, it's going to have us select our time zone. That one's good for me. There we go. We're just going to give it, it's all going to have the same name. There we go. All right, and this part will take a little while. for it to actually go ahead and install. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to pause the video here and I'll pick it up once it has finished installing. All right, and it is finally done installing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn this back up. Sorry, I had to actually restart the install after that because I messed up, and that's why you're actually seeing a different color of this versus like some of the other windows, because I just didn't even bother changing all that stuff. But yeah, and it's also probably smaller and everything, so it's gonna redo it, the screen size, once I actually go into the desktop. It's gonna tell us to take out the USB drive, which we'll do now, and then we're gonna go ahead and hit enter. And then we're going to go ahead and let it boot. Give it just a second here to finish up. There we go. Should come up to the login page here in just a second. All right, there we go. All right, let's get rid of this. So just go ahead and uncheck this to get rid of that. It's already got the Wi-Fi. Let's change the screen resolution because, again, we don't want it like that. 1440 by 810. Make it a bit easier for you. There we go. We're going to keep changes. Come here. I'm going to type in themes again because I would prefer it to be dark theme. I'm going to have to turn up the screen brightness too. There we go. There we go. All right, perfect. So what we want to go ahead and do, if you want to do all of this, what we can do is to go ahead and go in here into the terminal. And we're going to do sudo, whoops, and that's not how you spell sudo. Sudo apt update ampersand and upgrade, and we're going to type tac yes. We're going to put in our password. All right, there you go. And what that single command does, the sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade. Oh, I spelled upgrade wrong. Wait, what? Oh, it's because I forgot to put the rest of the command. Whoops, sorry. I'm a doofus. Apt upgrade. I forgot to put the rest of it there. Tac yes, and if you type in sudo apt update ampersand apt upgrade tac y, then it'll automatically do it. So let's go ahead and just hit this. We have 192 packages to update. This will not take very long at all. And to go ahead and get into the terminal, all you're going to do is just do Control-Alt-T, or you can just click on the little terminal down here. It shouldn't take too long. You can also, you can also go and do it through the update manager. We were just like, hey, let's refresh. And it can't do it right now, but it does say a newer version of Update Manager is available. It's going to update that through this, so we don't need to do that. But you could just do it, come in here into Update Manager and hit refresh, and then just go ahead and apply all the updates that way. I'm so used to working a lot of this stuff from the command line, so I just forget to utilize these other tools. All right, it shouldn't take too long. It's only got 192 packages to update. You know, honestly, I feel like most of the time this is faster going this way through Linux in the command line versus like any kind of Windows update. Every time I do a Windows update, it's just like it always takes forever. It doesn't seem to matter how powerful my system is. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and limit the speed on this. Now, if it's like one of those like weekly or however frequently they do the antivirus updates, those are usually pretty quick. But if you have to like update anything else, it takes a while. And you know, and I'm gonna stand up for Microsoft here a little bit, because for them it's gonna be a little bit more difficult because they have to take into account every potential combination of hardware and things like that. And also,
they're working with Windows, which is just honestly a straight up piece of shit. Like, at least Windows 11 is. And excuse my language there. I don't normally cuss, but I really don't. I'm not a really big fan of Windows 11. Windows 10 was great, but Windows 11, like, it looks better, like, aesthetically, but everything else about it is worse. And it's one of those things that I just really don't enjoy. And I still use it. Like, there's still use cases for it. But the thing about it is, if I go to, like, set this up for my grandma who is, like, older and never really uses Windows or anything else other than tablets, her first desktop operating system, honestly, I really don't think it's going to matter if I put Linux Mint or if I put Windows on there, because she's not going to be using any advanced programming. Advanced applications, and anything that she wants to do on a desktop, she can do on either Linux or Mac. So that would mostly be just browsing the internet, and we can put. I'm sure if she uses Chrome or whatever, we can put her browser on here. So maybe I can just convert it to Firefox. It's almost done, and there we go. Perfect. It is done. All right, so let's go ahead and exit out of this. Now, the next thing that we want to go ahead and do here is we want to go ahead and come back here to the start menu. We want to type in driver and look for the driver manager, because this has an NVIDIA GPU. So we want to go ahead and get the most up-to-date drivers, and it'll vary depending on which kind of graphics card you have. So these are all the different versions that are available. This is the Nuvo driver. And if you just want to do basic computing, it's no problem with that. But I'm going to go ahead and go up to the most recent. I'm going to hit apply changes. It's going to ask me for the password. And some people coming from Windows are just like, well, why do I have to put in the password all the time? And I'm like, well, it's because it requires admin privileges, and certain things are allowed, especially when you set up a Windows install. Usually it defaults to like you being an administrator, which it doesn't, like, you get to choose that, for the most part. Or and even if a lot of them do actually kind of put you as an administrator or sudo user by default. But still, the thing about it is that on Linux, it defaults to having you put in a password. It's not like just accept or whatever. So it's a bit more secure, and you can do that with Windows. You can make it to do that, but it's just, and I get it, right? They're trying to do out of the box, works just fine. And honestly, as long as most people avoid like shady websites, and downloading, shady things, I usually don't have any issues. I cannot even remember the last time I downloaded something that was malware. And I caught it because it was, I ran through Virus Total before I did, and I was like, oh, the more you know. I was like, that was an almost bad situation. So we'll take a little bit of time for the drivers to be updated. And I actually like this, because having this driver manager here, you don't have to worry as much about, going out, downloading GeForce Now and all that crap. I just don't like it. Like, I don't have GeForce Now on my Windows desktop, because I actually do have a Windows laptop and a Windows desktop. And the only reason it's a Windows desktop is because I'm doing some AI stuff on it, and I just need to spend some time getting like permissions and stuff updated and groups updated, so like both GPUs are available on Linux. It's just taking the time to do it, and it's like, human beings were programmed to take the path of least resistance, so it's not completely uncommon. I'm not gonna get mad at myself for something like that. But it does take some time for these drivers to get installed. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video, and then I'll just come back when it's done. All right, literally right after I said that, it started doing it because it didn't move for a while. But yeah, it says you need to restart the computer for the driver changes to go into effect. Get rid of that. Let's come down here to hit restart, and it's gonna go ahead and do all that. See, this is really great, because honestly, like, and that's the thing I like about, like, Linux in general, is, like, you have a lot of drivers that are just put into the kernel. And I know it's a monolithic kernel, and some people are like, oh, that just makes it so bloated and stuff like that. But I'm like, yeah, it would be nice, like, if you could easily somehow compile the kernel at boot. And you could do this, right? If you have manually do it, but it'll manually configure the kernel based on the different options and stuff like that. And the thing about it is even doing that is you just run into decision paralysis. So that can be a bit frustrating. All right, perfect. We got that installed. All right, so we got that done. Now the next thing we need to do is go install Steam. I'm not going over installing anything else. But we're gonna come up here to the software center, which is this one right here. We'll make it easy. So, and the first time you go into the software manager, and this is going to be like any other application center on an operating system. You know, the Apple Store, the Mac App Store, and all that stuff. So it can take a little bit of time the first time. But we want to come up here. We're just going to go ahead and do Steam. And then it's going to install everything that's needed for Steam. And this will take a few minutes. And see, the cool thing is you just go here in the software app center and you can download it. And the thing is, you could also just type in sudo apt install Steam and it's going to give you the same exact installation. Configuring Steam installer next. Yeah, see, and Steam is primarily the place that I do my games through, so that's why I'm not really worried about any of the other launchers. I know there's workarounds for them and stuff like that, but I honestly go with what's the least complicated. And I remember when I first got into Linux in 2019, it was such a pain in the butt to try to play games. I think the only game that I could ever get working on here was CS:GO. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and launch. And the first time it launches is it's gonna have to install like some stuff, and you usually see this when it installs on Windows too. Like when you do that first boot in the first time, see it's updating the Steam, it's doing all that. I don't understand why it does this. I don't understand why they can't just why they can't just always have the most up-to-date exe package on their website, because it's got like a lot of stuff to additionally install, and this is moving along pretty fast. I'm trying not to pause the video again, because the thing is I'm using my iPhone, so every time I pause it, it's really not pausing, and I guess I could pause it. Yeah, actually, now that I'm looking at this, there is a pause button. So hey, you're watching me learn here. So I think in the future I'll make sure to use that pause button when I'm doing all these. There we go. And then once this is done, I'll have to go ahead and get myself signed in here. Almost there. Yeah, see, I really wish they would just keep it updated. But the same thing happens with Windows. You download Windows and it's like, oh, hey, great. Oh, I've got like 3 months worth of updates. It's like, dang it. And it's annoying, extracting packages. And if you stuck with me this far, I really do appreciate it, because this is my first time doing something like this. So, like the first time, I really just kind of set my expectations. It's like, hey, I just want to get through this, get all the things installed, and then what I'll do is I'll fix the way that I do it as I go along. So let me go ahead and sign in here. And we've got Steam installed here. Now, one of the things that we want to go ahead and do is we want to go up here to Steam. We want to go to Settings. And we want to go to Compatibility, and then enable Steam Play for all other titles. Because if you go into your library, let me just close this out and I'll show you. If you go into library, you're going to see a much shorter list of games that are available than would be with Windows, right? So it's going to be like, oh, hey, these games right here are all ones that work with Linux to some level of extent. So what we want to do is we want to come up here to Steam. We want to go to Settings. Again, we want to go to Compatibility, and this will allow us, it's going to run their Proton layer, which allows for, it's basically like a translation layer between Windows and Linux that will allow all the games to do some form of work on Linux. So sometimes it acts goofy and it's just like, yeah, we're going to restart, but then it doesn't restart. It just, oh, there it goes, yeah. I was like, is that, I guess, I don't care about that. All right, so then we're going to come back up here after it restarts. We're going to go back into Settings, because it just has to restart it, and you have all these different ones. The most recent stable one's going to be the one at the top, and then you have Experimental, and then I'm not really sure what Proton Hotfix here. That wasn't there last time I did this, but you can just do whatever. I'm going to do Proton 9.04 because that's the most recent stable version. And let's go ahead and give it just a minute here. And let it restart. There it goes. All right, perfect. And if we come back up here to settings, compatibility, and it's there. So perfect. And you go to library. Yeah, you'll have a lot more of these, and you can still limit them. Like even if you go to Linux, it's going to have many more titles that weren't there. So yeah, you are ready to go. Now it's ready. Now your gaming laptop is ready to game. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and just flip back to my desktop, and then we'll finish this video out.
Now that that's all complete, it's time to play games on your Linux gaming laptop. I love installing Linux on something that it was never designed to run Linux on. Installing Linux on a gaming laptop can be super easy, as shown in this video. I know the video is a bit longer than I would have personally liked, but we got it done. And this is the first one doing it like that. If you got any feedback, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Again, I know I did not explain these steps for every manufacturer, but the basic steps are the same as far as setting up a Linux gaming laptop. So, if you ever have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below. And remember, Google is your friend for things like that. There'll be some links down in the descriptions in regards to the Linux Mint ISO, Etcher, and ProtonDB. ProtonDB is a great resource to show you the compatibility of Windows games on a Linux system. So yeah, so make sure to check out this other video that's going to be popping up in just a second from my channel. Remember, mistakes make you better, so keep on making them. Thank you so much for watching my video, and have the greatest of days.